It's like 13 going on 30 had more of a profound effect on me than The Godfather. I said it here. I mean, I think... Back to jail.
Back to jail.
Back to jail.
Believe it or not, jail.
And this is the last time I'll be doing this pod. Rachel, they cannot wait to have you back.
Oh, we're going to clip that so hard.
That'll be the clip at the beginning.
Confessions of a Millennial Drama Queen.
Rachel looks a little different this week.
Yeah, did you like change your hair or something?
Look, I'm mid-transition. Don't talk to me.
Oh. Well, you do you, man.
First I'm hearing of it, but we support you. So we are here with a very special guest today to fill in for Rachel, who's not with us. That's the only reason you're here. Just kidding.
She's still alive.
We've actually been wanting this guest on.
She's just not with us at the table.
Yeah, she's hanging out with Brian Williams.
Who isn't?
Oh, God.
Wait, if any of us three should be, it should be the horse girl, but we're going to move on. Would you like to introduce yourself, or should we introduce you?
I want to hear how you would do it.
All right. No, I think you should do it.
My name is Dan Schmidt. I'm an actor and a writer. You might have noticed my work. I was the fluffer in Brokeback Mountain. And yeah, a lot of my acting reels, a lot of unenthused hand stuff.
You know, I thought you looked familiar.
But yeah, happy to be here. I'm sure Rachel will be missed, and after I replace her, she'll come crawling back.
Dan, she's already missed.
I miss her.
We're 2 minutes in.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I might need you to get up.
I know.
We're just gonna put a picture of her in your place. No,
Okay.
Maybe you'll actually just take over her spot altogether, and she's gonna have to fight to get it back.
No, I don't want to.
My odds are on her, though.
She's 11.
She's very
fighter.
feisty.
Yeah.
All right. Well, a fun fact: our guest is also from Michigan,
Apparently, you have to be from Michigan to be on this podcast.
and also everyone in the studio producing is from Michigan as well. Dan, where did you and I meet originally?
We met in a. Did we meet in a Shinola?
Yes,
watch shop?
I was thinking Crow, but it was in a watch shop on Christmas.
Yep. I had to be creepy in a retail job. She was sitting on the couch, and I sold watches at Shinola, which is only in Michigan, I believe, only in Detroit. Mm-hmm. And I was selling watches. She was sitting there, and I recognized her from social media and just the stuff she had done. And I walked up to her, and
You're like, oh my God, are you the girl with 1,200 followers?
yeah.
Like, wait. I was there with my whole family because I was over Christmas.
Yeah.
I never heard this story. I didn't know you guys met this way, and this is funny.
Well, we ran in the same acting circles.
Yeah.
Took the same classes, I think, at different times. But anyway.
Well, it's weird, right? How you can know about everyone's life because of social media, but you never met them. So there's this weird thing like, I know everything about you, but we've never met. So
It's called stalking.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
That would be pretty accurate. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is weird.
So I decided to take the next step and see her in real life. And
I followed her to the Shinola place one day.
but yeah.
You're tracking my location for 3 years. Today's the day.
Perfect.
God damn it.
No, Dan came up to me as Dan Schmidt as he's ever been. And that's what I love about Dan. I have to say, he's consistent across the board. Never change, only grow. He came up to me just in full Dan splendor and was like, I think, did you take class at the actors? And you were just, I'm like, oh, hi, yeah.
Who are you?
Yeah.
Please don't rob me. We are in Detroit, so.
Yeah.
But you were working, and then we were talking for like 20 minutes, and I'm like, are you working right now?
Yeah. I just hit her with that manic energy of just like, she was like, okay, he's working through something apparently. But
Classic Dan.
yeah, no, I was working, and I was a seasonal worker, so I wasn't going to put in full-time effort. It was seasonal. I knew after Christmas they were going to be like, we don't need you, and I was like,
Yeah. And then Katrina later met Dan when we all moved here at some.
Yeah.
This is absolutely insane because we meet at this bar, and she's like, oh, this is my friend Katrina, and I'm like, oh, I'm from Michigan. Oh, me too. And then,
yeah.
And you're like, I too am from Allen Park, and you're like a block away, and I was just like,
Tell the people. Tell them your home address. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was like, okay. I was like,
Mom's maiden name.
Yeah, I was like,
His social security number.
Yeah.
But don't look me up. As long as you get that disclaimer, you're fine.
But yeah, great. So, do we want to do a weekly recap?
Let's do it.
All right.
oh god.
Well, Dan, On this podcast, we like to, before we jump into the movie, we just talk about the wild stuff that happens to us during the week. And usually there is some.
Yeah.
I only have a few, but what happened to you this week? What'd you do? Where'd you go? Who'd you see? Who'd you meet? What kind of poetry did you write this week? Did you stay out of jail? Just, the normal stuff.
So, I don't know. I started my week off just fucking, trying to keep my head on straight, trying to stay sober. Went to a fucking AA meeting and just got real sad real fast. And then I was like, you know what?
And normalize that. Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
It wasn't that bad though. But also, I don't know. I also dinged a car. So
Been there.
But didn't stick around to find out who was going to be angry. I just like a little. You know what?
That's your confession.
Yeah, that's your confession, man.
Yep. All right. Back to jail I go. All right. But yeah, so that was just that. And then after I hit the car and went to an AA meeting, it was pretty bad though. It was rough. It was just like, I don't know. It just was it was a bad week, but it ended great because then I was like, okay, I'm going to start this new job. I'm going to do this great thing. I'm going to write more poetry, less poetry. Now. It's just different now. It's less about being in jail and more about being, in the sunshine.
Quote of the week, guys. Less about being in jail, more about being in the sunshine. That's how I'm going to live my whole year.
And let's all try to live our life that way. You can lean a little forward, I think.
Yep.
So you're the same. Great. That's great.
Great.
I'm so happy for you. Congrats on 1 month sober.
You know what I've heard from that is that we are the highlight of his week. That's what I've gathered from that.
And I think that would be accurate. And by the way, I like to offer my services. If you ever need a nice push off the wagon, I'm a good enabler if you want to come to the bar with me. I'm totally kidding. But,
Molly, what'd you do this week?
Well, I finished up an 8-week class with Jason Alexander that I've been taking, also known as George from Seinfeld, which was just so good, so good. And it was at a musical theater studio, which was a nice change of scenery. So I'm a little bit sad about that being over, but it was great, very enriching. I've been doing a lot of horseback riding, and as I was telling Katrina in the car today, I'm like 50% ready to buy a horse at this point.
Jesus. Do you chafe? What do you wear when you're going horseback?
I mean, I'm wearing pants.
All right, fair enough.
Pants.
Those are some really cool pants.
I don't know how you like to ride horses, Dan. I guess no judgment.
Side saddle. He rides them side saddle.
Yeah, very dainty.
I told you I worked on Brokeback Mountain. It was very strenuous. Okay?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I saw the BTS from that. It was not pretty.
Wait, how much are horses?
A lot.
Okay.
But more so than the horse is like the boarding. It's like having a second rent to board them. Oh. But you can also you can split a lease on a horse and co-own it with somebody.
Oh.
And then just show up, the boarding people taking care of them and feeding and whatnot, and then you can just show up and ride them a couple times a week.
What if you show up and the other person who leases the horse is on the horse at the same time? Is it like a fist fight type battle to who is going to ride the horse at that time?
I think I would probably, best course of action would be to yank them off the horse.
Perfect,
and kick them while they're down, and then I would get on the horse and be like, it's my turn.
Oh, or jousting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. Love it. My week was, I had some more physical mishaps, let's say. This past weekend, we went out dancing. I actually danced for the first time in a really long time. I was like, I know. I was like, okay, I'm actually going to go out on the dance floor and not to the spot where I overlook the skyline and, cry. So instead of
That's
doing
my favorite spot.
I know, mine
We've
too.
cried there together.
Yeah. So instead of doing that, I went and I danced and it was great. And I was like, wow, I've never danced this much here. And I was in these heel things and it was all fine though. So then that night I'm like, wow, you know what? Fuck you, 30. I can do anything. In the middle of the night, let's say 3 a.m., biggest, hardest Charlie horse I've ever had in my calf. It was so intense. I couldn't walk straight for 3 days. It was hurting for 3 days. And I was like, okay, well, there's the 30. And then
there it is. There she is.
And then 2 days later, in the middle of the night, I yanked out my freshly new nose piercing and just, everywhere. And that was really fun to deal with at 2 a.m. and it hasn't stopped bleeding since. So, I'm really killing it this week.
And my piercing that we got together was also hurting. It was also hurting the same night that you violently ripped yours out and found yourself covered in blood at 4 a.m. I'd like to say that mine also hurt a little bit. So I feel like we're connected.
Do you think it's sympathy pain?
Well, our periods are synced up. This is so great.
We're on the same level. Our aura has merged. Okay.
I like to think so.
Dan, how's your piercing doing? You know the one.
It's infected.
Throbbing.
Wow. Should we get to the episode?
Probably.
This week, we covered the iconic 13 going on 30.
And I guess nobody probably can figure out what it is about. But it is about a girl who's 13 and she's going on 30 because some magical wish bullshit that they kind of yada yada through. But one day she wakes up and she is 30 because of her wish to be 30, which is a dumb wish.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah. But that's the plot for those of you who have not seen it with Jennifer Gardner.
Yes. And I just want to say really quick, I'm really excited to see our very first notes because we watched this together and it was quite entertaining. But my very first note was, it's so sparkly, I love it.
And mine was, it's too sparkly, I hate this.
Wait, are you serious?
It says too sparkly.
Oh my gosh. You guys really are synced
This
up.
is why we are yin and yang here.
My first note was 30 and flirty and thriving. Say it with me. 30 and flirty and thriving.
Oh, I have a note on that.
Yeah.
It says 30, flirty, and thriving. The fuck?
I think I was striving more at 13, if I'm being honest.
I am 30. I am not flirty, and I am not thriving.
Oh.
You can't have them all. You know, you can have 2 of the 3. Pick yourself a lolly. I mean.
Yeah. You can be 30 on the Paramount lot, but you cannot be thriving. It's like it
Done.
really depends.
Yeah.
All right, so the first scene is she is getting her yearbook pictures taken, and you know what? Nobody has good yearbook pictures in high school. So I thought they were like being overly dramatic about that, and I was like, her picture looks great compared to mine.
Facts.
Yeah.
Look, it's a coming of age story, right? Like that's essentially what it is, and it makes you feel good. I was just a little disappointed. I thought the movie was going to make me laugh more, and it actually just made me really sad. And when it got to the end of the movie, I was crying. I was sad. I was literally crying. I don't know if it was nostalgia, if it was whatever it was. It took me back to the time, but it like made me sad, and it was a great like coming of age story. But I remembered laughing at it when I was younger, and then you hear how it like. It's great. It's got the best coming of age song ever of all time that it repopularized, which was Vienna, Billy Joel.
Dude, when that came on, we were both like, oh,
The feels.
which I can play on piano now, by the way. Just saying.
Ooh. See, your note is about being sad, and my next note is, do you want some razzles? Razzles are for kids. Exactly. And then they both pour it, and they're like, and then they take it together, which razzles are a candy that turns into a gum, by the way, not like ecstasy, like it looks like I'm doing right now.
Right.
But they like pour it, they eat it, they smile, and they're like, razzles. And I'm like, is this movie sponsored by Razzles? Because
Probably was.
that would be amazing. And I haven't had Razzles in like 15 years.
Yeah, same. 15. Also, I was going to ask, did it leave you with sadness, or did you just like feel the nostalgia and the sadness, and then you were like, ended on a good note?
No. It leaves you feeling.
Or you were just
energized.
cutting yourself at the end.
No. It leaves you feeling energized. You're like,
Okay.
You're like, it just takes you back to a time. It came out 2004, right?
Yep.
So I didn't watch it in 2004. You watch it a couple years later. I was too young to really. I wasn't even watching that. You know what I mean? So I just was like, okay, let's. But it took me back to a good time, and then I like hop out of bed, and you feel good. It made me feel good. But like you can feel good and be a little sad. You're just like, wow, that was a good time. You know what I mean? And then there's the music. The soundtrack was fucking great.
Wait, are you saying that 13 was a good time?
No, I'm saying like that.
That your final answer?
Year, like that.
That point in your life?
You come a little forward.
Yeah, just 2004, like that time period, like the mid 2000s. I just felt like was I don't know, it just felt different. It felt different, and obviously that's just nostalgia.
That's what our whole podcast is about.
Yeah.
It just, I know, and that movie captured it. It just made. I thought I would like laugh more, and I was like, oh, this is kind of sad. Like there's a line where she says, I don't want to be original, I want to be cool, or you know what I mean? And because she's dressing up with Maddie, and Maddie's like, you're great, you're amazing, and she's like, well, I don't want to be great, I don't want to be original, I want to be cool. And I'm like, oh my god, that's kind of like a heavy line, but we all feel that way. When you're younger, you feel that you just want to fit in so bad. You're like, oh, how do I have to fucking maneuver in this room to be fucking
Yeah.
Actually, now that you said that, I do remember I had a note about when she says, I hate me, I hate everyone. I was like, oh, am I about to cry right now? She's like, I hate me. Like, everyone can relate to that. Except for me, because I'm perfect.
Well, yeah.
Just kidding.
I mean, nobody fits in high school. Even if you're cool in high school, you look back on those kids, you're like, those kids were not cool.
Were they supposed to be in middle school or high school?
Well, 13, I think you're a freshman? Question mark? Maybe 8th grade.
For me, that was middle school, but I know it's different with different schools.
Maybe it was 8th grade.
Yeah. But yeah, that kind of broke my heart a little bit.
Yeah, and you realize like even in that line, there's like a lot of great lessons, like just life lessons that like happen in that movie. I mean, it hits the typical, right? She goes for the guy, and she ends up being like one of the 6 chicks kind of through her life and hanging out with those people, and then like, but I love how her like childlike behavior was to her advantage when she in the beginning of the movie, like. It allowed her to take risks. I mean, it was hilarious when she walks up to, instead of like the grown man at the bar, she walks up to the kid.
Oh my God.
That was so cringe.
Was so weird.
I was like, huh? I know. I felt like secondhand embarrassment. My like stomach tightened up. I was like, oh my God, she walked up to the child. She was like, hey, stud. And he's just like eating some chicken fingers. You're like,
so our main girl, Jennifer Garner, is a 13-year-old who's kind of a quirky, nerdy girl who wants to be part of the popular clique. And they do that thing the popular clique does where like they pretend they're friends, but they're not friends. They're basically just using her. So she has a birthday party, and they come over only because she does their homework for her. And so at one point they tell her that they're going to do 7 minutes in heaven, and she goes into a closet and is blindfolded. And this is really kind of where that tipping point of the movie comes into play. And she makes a wish because her best friend, Matt, is that Mark Ruffalo's name? Matt built her own Barbie dream house and took like weeks to build it, and then put this magic dust on top of it. And that's where she's like, I want to be 30. I want to be 30. Which, don't do that, children. Don't wish for this.
Yeah, you can wish for other things at 13.
Yeah, wish for many other
like
things.
A horse. Like, that's what I was wishing for. 30 wasn't even on my like horizon.
No.
Now it is.
I wish it was on my horizon.
You're like, it's in my rear view.
yeah, for better or for worse, we're here, bitches.
No, you're 30 exactly, right?
I am.
Okay.
For
so
a
you
little
have
while
expertise
longer.
on this
30
movie.
and flirty and thriving.
Yeah. And really quick, also, when they do this 7 minutes in heaven, Judy Greer's character goes, some guy is going to go in that closet and do whatever he wants with you. And I was like, could we maybe have looked at a rewrite on that line?
Yeah, there was a lot of rewrites needed on certain lines and certain behavior. But it was 2004, so almost 20 years ago.
Yeah, let's normalize 7 minutes being long enough.
Did you guys notice a very, very young Brie Larson in this
Yes.
cast?
He did not.
Somebody did it.
And what's
was
her
in the
face?
clique.
From Pretty Little Liars.
Ashley Benson.
Ashley Benson.
Also, I'm really embarrassed to admit this, but I had no idea what year this movie was, so I was just going, I'm like, is this in the 90s? I don't know. And when I was watching it, the casting of the younger versions of these girls was so good that I was like, wow, I've never seen Judy Greer this young. And then I'm like, when I finally saw the real one, I'm like, wait. Something's not adding up. Carry the fort. Yeah, that wasn't her.
That's not Judy Greer.
But she looked identical to what I imagined she looked like at 13.
Yeah, that was great casting.
Yeah.
So she, instead of doing 7 minutes in heaven with this guy that she liked, who had terrible hair, by the way, the one she was actually into, he came out of the car and I was like, ew. Mm-hmm. So I guess I was not the target audience for that. But she wishes she's 30 and she wakes up in her New York City apartment.
Wait, really quick.
Yes.
The moment she said, I want to be 30, Katrina screamed, no!
And that came from the depths of her soul when she said
it was guttural. It was emotional. It was raw. It was real.
I might have done that. It was a warning. So she wakes up as a 30-year-old and becomes Jennifer Garner, because that is not who played the younger version of her. And she has to kind of learn everything about 2004 and her life for the past, 17 years that she doesn't remember, because now she's a 13-year-old in a 30-person-year-old body.
Well, and that hot guy you're saying that's not hot, that was so the thing, though. And that was 2000's hot guy, right? And notice what's the first thing he does? The trope, the slow hot guy hair pushback. Slow hot guy hair pushback. Slow hot guy hair pushback. Slow hot guy hair pushback.
Can you give us a demonstration?
Slow hot guy hair pushback. And you know what I mean? And then you're just like, like it just goes. Like that was the thing.
They did the slow-mo walk up. Also, with the dream house, which was just so adorable. Yeah, no guy who at 13 would ever put that much effort into anything, no matter how badly he wanted a girl. Like, just no. So, way to set those expectations way too high, guys.
When I was 13, the way you told somebody you liked them was to be mean to them, not build them a Barbie dream house.
Totally.
Yeah.
So that is against
It
everything
was
I know.
literally to bully them.
Which is why I'm a high-functioning adult now.
I had to a little too close to home.
So one trope that I dislike about pretty much all the movies that do this thing of like time travel and like a reality shift is that the person clearly is like, she's 13, she just woke up in a 30-year-old body, so she's disoriented to say the least. And she is acting insane. Like if that, like that is insanity. If you just kind of woke up to your best friend being like, hi, there's a guy in my house. It's like, dude, that you live with him.
Yeah.
They always are just like, oh my God, stop being so hungover, stop being kooky. That bitch would be in a mental institution by the end of that day.
Yeah. She blew off way too much of what she was saying. She's like, who? Yeah. She's like, is that my apartment? And she's like, you need to stop drinking so much. I'm like, she doesn't know where she is.
Well, I've done that too.
I was gonna say, I was like,
not all of us are alcoholics, guys.
I was like, I've been in a couple of jail cells where I was like, you wake up next to some guy from, Southgate, some Little League baseball coach who just lost a championship and he is fucking destroyed. And you're like, Tom, good to see you again. He's like, yeah, good to see you, Dan.
You're like, how's the kids?
Wait, that's the story we want more answers on, but for a later date.
Let's shelf.
Also, when she woke up in this apartment, I'm like, you have to be rich to have this kind of apartment. Right. Like in New York, the closet space alone, walk-in closet in New York, still a dream of mine. Just a walk-in closet, period. And I don't even live in New York. But I'm like, I guess I did establish that she's like a big Time magazine editor, but I'm like, still, you need to be like well above six figures.
That was like
well above
Kardashian money.
Yeah.
My favorite thing about her trying to like figure out who she was, she called her parents' house because, you remember that phone number. So she calls her house and her parents' answering machine is like, hey, we're on a cruise, blah, blah, blah. And don't you just love the early 2000s when your answering machine message literally was like, hey, come steal from us. We're not going to be home for the next 2 weeks. Burgle me.
Someone Google that. That's a word.
Burgle me, baby. That's so funny.
We are not home.
Someone burgle me.
Now would be the time.
And it's before like Nest cameras, so it's like literally just let yourself in, bake some cookies,
There's
just
no
leave
ring.
us some. Yeah, like totally fine.
Yeah. I also find it funny how like being a magazine editor in every single movie from this time was like the cool adult girl job. I'm like, is that? Do people want to do that? It sounds like a lot of
Not
work.
anymore.
That and architecture, right? Like,
for the guys.
For a guy, it was like he's working on like a building in Manhattan.
Yeah.
And then like the girls are like, I work for Sparkle, or no, Poise was the Poise.
You got both of them.
Yeah. Good job. Look at that. When she like first wakes up and then she like meets up with her best friend as an adult, I was like thinking, who would my middle school BFF be if this happened to me? And I was shook to my core.
See, I did something else similar. I was like, because the whole love story about this movie is her best friend from when she was 13, the boy who like was in love with her, and he comes back later as Mark Ruffalo. If you were to do this movie as like the person you were quote unquote in love with when you were 13 and that's who you end up with, that's what shook me. I was like, oh.
You're like, thank God we changed.
But that's the guy. That's the right guy, though. Like Mark is clearly from the beginning. I mean, he's like he brings over his Casio, like he's talented,
right?
And it's like that's the trope, right? It's like, oh, she didn't go for her best friend, and then it turns out not working. That's like the biggest.
Yeah.
But it just like those two, Mark Ruffalo and Jennifer Garner, amazing chemistry.
Yeah, they're cute together.
Off the top of your head, can you think of another movie they did together? Because I hope
The Adam Project.
that wasn't bad either. Well, I didn't
watch it.
Obviously not as good as 13 going on 30, but like their chemistry, you're like, oh my gosh, are these people? And I remember as a kid, like I would always be like, oh my God, they're probably like together in real life. And you're like, no, that's acting.
Honestly, they probably hated each other in real life.
That would be even more impressive, yeah. Like they just had great chemistry. So I'm like, I can't believe they didn't make more movies together. And then I'm like Googling, I'm like, were they ever married? And it's like, no, they weren't.
You're like, please be married, please be married.
I'm like, they weren't.
Acting.
For me, I'm coming up on the Thriller dance scene.
Oh, no. Before we get to the Thriller dance scene, I want to talk about the iconic dress and getting ready scene.
Oh, yes.
And she has to have already owned this dress because she didn't go like shopping for it. But she realizes she has some party that she has to go to later that night. And so she's like, oh, I get to be in a limo. And she goes and she has this montage of like putting on this dress and like doing her hair with like butterfly clips or something. Like, I don't know what she...
Naturally.
Yeah. Like some very and the blue eyeshadow. And I'm just like, no. But
she like smears on her makeup as a 13-year-old would.
13-year-old
who's never touched makeup before.
No, which is actually a fun scene because like you were 13 and that's what you were doing. And she dressed like how she wanted to dress when she was 13. She's like, I have boobs. And so she's super happy about it. What if you were wearing what you would wear at 13? What was your style?
You want to hear what it was?
I want to hear what it was.
Can someone else go first?
I will absolutely go first. So if this was me and I was 13 and I got transported and now I'm 30 and I was wearing like what I wanted to wear. Oh God. So I was like a baby gothic person. Like I wanted to be gothic, but I wasn't completely because I went to
goth-lite.
I was goth-lite. And like really into like the emo scene. So I was probably going to be wearing trip pants, which were from Hot Topic, and they just had like the belt buckles, and maybe we can insert something here. With a picture of my trip pants that I'd be wearing, and clearly a band t-shirt. So I'm wearing my Good Charlotte t-shirt, and I brought an emo pin so that everyone
It's honestly
knows.
not that much different than your current style. Yours is just more like refined.
Yeah, I know.
But the theme is consistent.
It is, but I don't wear trip pants anymore. And,
What are those exactly?
I will show you because
Are they the black cargo?
They didn't necessarily have to be cargo. They were just really black and chainy.
Oh God, she was like listening to the red jumpsuit apparatus. Like that's.
Do you feel like a man?
Oh,
I was definitely listening to that.
It is definitely a phase, Mom.
Okay, we're gonna have to overlay this.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Oh my gosh.
And I exclusively shopped at Hot Topic, and
Of course.
dyed my hair black blue.
What?
Yeah, it had
All of
like,
it?
Yeah, all of it. It had this like blue shine to it, but it was black.
Can we get a picture of that for the pod?
I will try and find one. But at the same time, I was doing ballet, so I couldn't have been that gothic.
Wow.
You were 13, flirty, and thriving.
And gothing, apparently. So that's what I would be wearing, walking around Manhattan in my black from head to toe. Oh, and I would wear like a red tie and put like the band pins on it. Because I was cool.
It's like lightly Avril Lavigne core.
Yeah.
Dan, what would you be wearing?
All right, so I grew up playing sports, and I had a weird fashion sense. I thought matching was wearing the same color. So I thought you had to...
Monochrome king. We love it.
I thought like you had to, like matching wasn't like black t-shirt and jeans. I'm like, no, I thought it had to all match. So I would come out of my room in green shorts and a green shirt, and it'd be 50 shades of whatever fucking color I was wearing. And my mom, like, she thought I was, a few shy of a 6 upstairs. You know what I mean? Like, she just wasn't sure. And I was just Barry Sanders jersey, Honolulu blue pants, Honolulu blue jersey. And my mom was like, her only way to teach me a lesson about like how to dress was like, I'm gonna let you go to school like that, and I'll let you bear the rent. Which
Tough
is
love.
Yeah, which is a great parenting style.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta let him embarrass himself.
Yeah, so when I went to school with it was a green Little Caesars rec basketball jersey and green shorts. Then the tones of green, not even close. Not even. We've got forest green, lime green, but my brain only saw green, baby. Like I was wearing 2 shades of green, and I went there with that, and then pink. My mom's pink Under Armour flip flops. And
wait, back up. I'm sorry. Can you expand on what you just said?
It was a tough time.
I'm sorry. Pink and green though?
Wait, your mom's pink Under Armour flip flops.
Yeah, because I go.
You wore those.
Mm-hmm, because all the shoes that I had didn't look cool with the fucking green.
Because those ones definitely looked cool.
Yeah, in my mind. And I went to school, but the thing is like when you're young, you don't know until someone points it out. So I walked and I was like, fuck yeah. I was doing like slow motion cool guy walk away from fire, like burning building cool. Like you're just
Don't look back. Don't look back.
Yeah, don't look back.
Sunglasses.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I was like, and one of my friends was just like, that's how you know who your real friends are, the ones who will actually tell you straight up, like, hey, they're like, hey, that was, he just whispers in my ear, he's like, hey man, like, what happened? What happened this morning?
What's going on at home, Dan?
Did mom lay this out, or was this a creative choice? So that's what I would wear, but it was embarrassing.
Although it's not like your peers know any better either, because at 13, I would be wearing, I'm so embarrassed.
Because ours were so cool.
I can top it. My neon orange Traverse City horse shirt of horses galloping in the wind. But not only this, I cut up all the sides and tied it back up with the ties. And the sleeves I fringed. So not a shred of fabric left uncut.
I love it.
By my little scissors. And then I wore this pair of gauchos, these like knee-length black gauchos that had like blue flowery patterns on them.
I'm loving this
like
image.
Embellishment, not the whole thing.
Right.
Tasteful, of course.
Tasteful.
Nothing but. Of course, my Crocs. They were probably light pink if I had to guess. And then I had a horrible bubblegum pink hoodie that I wore over any outfit, regardless of if it went or not. And I'm not done. Unfortunately, I also had a felt light pink headband with big bejeweled studs on it. And I'm still not done. And I didn't always wear this all at the same time, but this was like my weekly uniform. I had a poncho. Remember those?
Oh, God.
It was like a pastel multicolored poncho. Not done. It had a flower brooch. And that's as far as I'm willing to even dig back in my memory. And I was just learning how to use eyeliner. And by learning, I mean didn't know how to use eyeliner.
I only used eyeliner on my bottom for 10 years.
Oh, same.
It looked awful.
I only had one eyeliner stick that I got from like the dollar store, and I didn't have a sharpener. And so I would just cut my eye because it needed to be sharpened. I'd be like, I don't care. I would just let it like cut my eye because I'm like, there's something left there.
Yeah. Good
Like
old
a
days.
psychopath.
Yeah. I
My
don't.
mom's like, why are your eyes bleeding? I'm like, don't ask me about it.
It's fashion.
And I would only wear eyeliner when my boyfriend told me to. I just
Yeah.
Don't let him boss you around.
Yeah. You're a strong, independent Honolulu flip-flop wearing,
oh, it was,
you know.
My shoe selection is not updated since I was 13. I still wear Converse or Vans every day.
I still have my Converse from high school. Although, you know, my outfit I think was more from when I was like 11, 12. But I would say it probably carried over a little bit into 13.
Well, let's time travel back into this movie, I guess. Okay. So she just got all dressed up, and the thriller scene is what you want to talk about.
Yes, which I didn't even remember, but it was pretty iconic.
I did.
And I actually, well, first of all, I want to say, so tell them what that is first, and then I'll comment.
Sure. So at this party that they all got dressed up to, it's slow, and they need to amp up the beats.
People are leaving.
Yeah, people are leaving. So she goes over to the DJ and gets Thriller to be played and starts doing a really awkward, cringy dance by herself. And then everybody joins in. Like, it's like the best fucking night of their life. And they're like, oh my God, Thriller. And they all know it. Like, nobody is messed up at all. Everyone was very much choreographed to do this beforehand. And everybody knows it. And Mark Ruffalo comes to this party for reasons. Like, they didn't really talk about reasons. Why. He does the Thriller dance and goes home. Like, he was at this party for 3 minutes and is like, I gotta go.
What he came to do. He knew what he came to do. But also, it wasn't like everyone just joined in at once and started dancing. We had to give all of these extras their moment. Like, these featured extras where they'd be like, yeah, and like it was so glorious. And my thoughts were, imagine you just graduated from Juilliard and this is what you're booking. Oh. And by the way, I wouldn't be mad about it, but it was just a funny thought to me.
Neil's copy credit, baby.
There you go. But you know what me and Katrina were saying was, we were commenting on what the actual audio was. And if you wouldn't mind, Charles, could you pull up the Thriller dance from 13 going on 30? And we're gonna tell you what the audio was. Oh, we're gonna comment. And Dan, please feel free to contribute.
It was such a good, oh my God, I don't know what it is about movies before or
and just you can
today,
just mute it, Charles, once it's playing.
That give you that, like, they just don't feel the same. And I know it's not nostalgia because like some of these movies I'll go back and watch. Like I just watched like, you know, Jerry Maguire, like these movies from like the 2000s that were like really great. And you're like, why? What is different? I can't put my finger on what is different, but movies just felt different.
Yeah, they had a different sauce in them. Like they were just, you can't make them like that anymore. Oh, perfect.
Perfect. Yeah, and actually we shouldn't have the volume because when this gets filmed, I feel like we've talked about this before on the pod, they are shooting this scene without music for the actors themselves.
Yes.
So if we were to be quiet for a second, this is probably not the best part to do it, but
that's what it would sound like.
That's what it would sound like. Absolutely nothing.
Just her lines. Everyone has to be silent.
Right.
They probably had like someone like a click track or like something where they could hear the beat, but there was no music to this, so they're dancing. So what we're hearing right now is probably just squeaking of tennis shoes.
Oh,
this new girl galloping up. We hear her. Oh, more people joining.
Guys, this is awesome. We're doing the Thriller dance. Oh, come on. Oh, okay. All right. Smile more. We need more smiles.
Yeah, bigger smiles. Bigger energy. You're happy to be here.
Bigger arms, people.
You're having a great time.
You're a zombie. A happy zombie.
And 2, 3, 4. And stay on beat. And stay on beat. Extra number 5, join. Judy Greer, join.
And the music you're saying, that's all post, right?
Yeah, it's all post. So we're just pretending like we're the director and the everyone on the other side of the camera being like, okay, we need more smiles, more spirit fingers.
Yeah, bigger smiles, people.
Andy Serkis, bigger smile. But
DJ, we need some pizzazz from the DJ.
Look at this, like,
and
shimmy.
Because of her position, she was thought of a genius for that child outfit and that makeup like that because of her position in the company. They thought that was genius. Right?
Yeah.
Wow.
And now they're all dancing while they have lines.
Right. And he's like, all right, I've had enough. And he straight up leaves after not even completing the Thriller dance. So I think, thank you for showing that. But Mark Ruffalo almost didn't take this role because he had to do that.
You're saying Mark Ruffalo for the same reason? He didn't want to take the role at 13 and 30, 13 going on 30, because he thought...
he just didn't want to do the Thriller dance scene. Oh. He was intimidated by it.
Yeah. Who else was up for the role? Do you know?
No, that was their first choice. And they had and he accepted it, but they had to, I think, do a little convincing.
Heard it was Danny DeVito. And
Perfection.
They were like,
love.
They were like, Danny, can you just, not be the way you are?
Okay, so she's basically this magazine editor. She's doing a really good job, like Dan said before. Like, her 13-year-oldness is making her better at her job because she's not as jaded as the rest of us, and she still has hope.
What's that like?
I don't know. So she is killing it, and at the end, there. Of course, there's always some big catastrophe, and the magazine is gonna crumble and die unless there is a big idea pitched. And during this whole time, we see that the old best friend that was a bitch when she was a child is her new real best friend.
Still a bitch.
And that's kind of the whole crux of the story, is that, like, she made a really bad wish because she's not a good person. In which her whole life went out of control because of that one 13-year-old day, which makes me, she wasn't a good person. Yeah. She didn't have good foundations of being a person if she could let one day turn her into a monster.
Damn,
true.
That's a good point.
And she had a brief moment of like what happened with a married guy?
She was selling secrets from her job to the competing magazine. Sparkle. She was sleeping with other people's husbands, and she was just mean to her parents, the people who worked for her. She was just an all-around bad person.
They didn't make her very likable.
No, and I think that's the point, that she screwed up her life so much by making that. But if you screwed up your life by making one decision as a 13-year-old,
exactly.
I made a lot of bad decisions as a 13-year-old.
Yeah.
Did you see my outfit?
She went full circle, though. She ends up going the full circle. Unlike the other character, Tom, or one of the 6 chicks, she's just a bitch her whole life.
Yeah.
She went from 13 and a bitch to oh, now you're 30 and you're just like a thundercut. And you're like, holy. And you're like, how? There's no arc. There's no arc for that character.
No, and I think that's kind of the point, is so that you see how bad it could end up, and the influence of Mark Ruffalo and her seeing the world from a 13-year-old's perspective is oh, I'm gonna go back and do things differently. But I remember watching this last scene, and she's giving this pitch for how to save the magazine. I couldn't tell you what that was. She just goes she goes up in front of everyone, and she's like, I want to see what my neighbor's sister is up to, and I want real life photos of real things happening. That's what our magazine should be about. That's not a pitch. That's
it looked like a scrapbook or a yearbook for her presentation board. I'm like, what am I looking at, girl?
And then everyone stands up and applauds and thinks it
sheds a tear.
Yeah. And it doesn't make money. It doesn't make sense, and I don't understand it, and I'm still confused. Did anybody?
Still don't know what it was.
No? Okay. Dan, did you? You didn't watch it with us. Do you know what she was talking about?
You don't think that pitch at the end, in real life, that doesn't work in that meeting room where she's like, I want to see my friends in my graduating class, and that's what made me emotional, was when they're doing that shoot and they throw the leaves behind her, and then what was that song? I can't remember, but it was so It's the 2000's, and it's rose-colored glasses, and you're just looking at the world through that lens. And I thought that pitch, Speak for yourself. I was fucking compelled. I was bought and sold by fucking Sparkle and whatever. I was like ready to go.
Oh my God, I love this. No, I am so advertisingly jaded that I was sitting there like, no, where's the KPIs here, people? Like, what is the end point of this? How are you going to make money? I'm in the red. I need to circle back on the actual way we're going to make money off of this.
How does it make me feel?
I don't know.
Dan
How
goes,
does it
that's
make
poetic.
me feel?
And I'm like,
Forget your accounting spreadsheets. Forget your Excel spreadsheets. I'm going on a feeling, okay?
And I'm like, we need to sell magazines. How is getting a picture of your neighbor's friend Becky gonna sell any fucking fashion magazine?
She's relatable. I can relate to Becky, unlike fucking Jennifer Garner.
I don't know Becky.
No,
Becky's
I don't know
a
Becky.
Random girl.
And to me, that's a highlights magazine. That's not like
by the
high
way, my mom
fashion.
illustrated those. Fun fact.
I know.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah.
Got really intense there.
No, it's okay. We like disagreements. Normalize disagreeing.
Okay. No.
Fine. I agree.
I love it. That's what it's all about, though. Because I'm like, in my head, I'm like, well, that's why I couldn't run a magazine company. Because I'm just like, how does this make me feel? And you're like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like,
Dan, you can't run a magazine
And
company.
I would like the listeners to know that 5 minutes before we started this podcast, Dan just gave us copies of his book of poems that he wrote and published and is selling.
And I was like, Contemplated Things by Dan Schmidt. I just butchered my own book title, but that's okay.
Yikes.
Contemplated Things,
You can do it again if you want that out. Go ahead.
Contemplated Things by Dan Schmidt on Amazon Kindle. Go fuck yourself.
Woo! All right, so that was pretty much the whole non-love scene portion of this movie, and at the very end, of course, because it's a rom-com, we have to get to the climax of the Mark Ruffalo, Jennifer Garner showdown of her confessing her love. He's engaged. He's about to get married. They've had a couple of like kisses. That was a weird way to say that. And like friend dates, and they clearly have feelings for each other. So what she believes the best next move is to go to his wedding day and try and break up this impending marriage because it's classy. And
name something classy.
How toxic is that, by the way? Just break.
And he turns her down, which is appropriate because he's engaged to someone else for a long time. She just came into his life like a week ago. And the whole point of this movie is to not get what you want, because that's how they have to like go back to being 13 and her getting her happy ending. But can you imagine doing the cha-cha slide 2 hours after you have an emotional like showdown of like, I love you, I just can't be with you, and we had our moment and it's not now, and I love this other chick, and she's like, I'll be fine, and he's like, okay, cha-cha slide.
Like, slide to the left.
Take it back now.
I love to. 3 hops this time.
And you're just like, I just ruined that other girl's life, but I'm cha-cha sliding real good right now.
Oh my God.
Everybody clap your hands.
And that's why I'm broken. That was the first thing I thought of during that scene. I was like, okay, he gets cake and then he gets the cha-cha slide.
Yeah, and that was pretty selfish. Like, they didn't have her even question whether that was like maybe not a nice thing to do. She's like, no, I'm going.
Yeah.
No, I don't care.
Yeah, I had my time, but it's fine.
Yeah.
And how is that not suspicious? Like, there's the scene where like she goes to his apartment and then like his wife or fiance answers the door in just a button-up t-shirt. I thought that was an indication that she was cheating. Like, I thought that they were gonna, like, when I rewatched it, I was like, oh my God, she's with another guy, and then it's gonna all make sense that he shouldn't be with her anyways. But all signs point that she was a great woman.
Oh yeah, I think the conversation before it was like, we need to adjust our living situation before we get married. I think she was like living there. That's why she was just in that button-up, and like they were engaged and living together at that point.
Right, it was his shirt, not the neighbor's.
Right.
Like, that was his shirt. Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
I cried, though. I mean,
Casual.
I was emotional.
Oh.
Agree to disagree. The way we consume movies, I love it. Me and Katrina just have like a different, like, the way we consume things. I'm just like, oh, it's so sad. And she's like,
I'm pretty sure me and Katrina paused it at like the peak of the conflict of the movie to just have a sidebar for like 40 minutes.
We did.
And then we just resumed.
yeah.
To be fair, we have a lot going on, and this movie just didn't even scratch the surface. But there is a happy ending for our lovebirds. She does fine. Because that was they're in this bedroom. She's confessing her love. She's crying, and he's like, I can't be with you, but I did save this dollhouse I made for you 17 years ago. Here it is. And like that's not going to get her even more emotional.
Right.
But the magic pixie fairy dust was still on it, and that transported her back to being her 13-year-old self. She comes out of the closet and is like, oh my God, Matt! And they apparently are together for 17 years because the last scene is them getting married when they are both now 30 years old. And that's a really
pink
long
house.
time. In a pink...
Or purple.
No, pink with purple trim.
Yes.
That resembled the Barbie dream house that he built for her when they were 13.
Oh, I didn't even pick up on that.
Yes. Trained eye.
Wow.
Yeah, well, we're professionals here.
Yeah, I was going to say, God, I must have been watching this did I relapse? No. But no, I think the overall, it's like the moral of that whole movie, at least what I picked out of it is, yeah, it's got the happy ending, but it's like, she benefited from her childlike behavior. Like, never lose that innocence, never lose that childlike, just like wonder. And that's it, literally the whole movie. It helps her. That whole thing when she's 30 overnight, but she still has all those childlike instincts. I'm like, there's like such value in just that.
It's you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like,
it's a perfect movie for you to do.
It was like literally like I just was like, oh, she's getting these jobs. She advanced her career after she was fucking up with Tom Tom, and then she comes out and she dances by herself. The balls it takes to dance by yourself and wait for someone to come out. No, I would do that because I'll just make myself look like an idiot and sit in that and be. And
would you do it sober?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, no, I believe you would.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm even more insane sober just because like now the mind isn't numbed; it's just going everywhere.
That's true. Oh, that's honestly, yeah, you're like a special case in that instance.
Yeah, I'm very special.
All right, I will only get to one trivia fact about this movie because I think we talked about everything else. She works at this magazine, and during her first day when she's still so disoriented, her assistant comes up and is like, this person called. And then she says, Eminem is on the phone and needs a decision. And she goes, plain, peanut, plain, because she doesn't know Eminem is a rapper and just thinks it's a candy. And I didn't catch that because I thought she was just thinking of, God, what do you call it? What's that like list of things that you demand as a talent, as a talent?
A rider?
A rider. I thought it was a rider. And she was like, oh, peanut, plain, peanut. Like, and then I was like, oh, it's because he's Eminem.
Yeah.
And so that went over my head.
Also from Michigan, Detroit?
Yeah, that's why I brought it up.
I did it. Eminem music video.
You like that? Yeah.
That's the whole point. I'm just kidding.
Dan, give it a rating. Give it
Seven.
out of Barbie dream houses. How many would you give it out of 10?
Enough to make me happy. So I give it a 7.5 out of 10. I think that's and I think watching it now at 27 and other than the last time I watched it at maybe 13 or 14, you feel a lot differently about that. Like I didn't catch, like I said, I don't know. The movie felt like heavy to me just because of like some of the quotes and things. But I give it a 7.5. I think it's amazing. I think those two have great chemistry. I would watch another like a rom-com with Jennifer Garner and the Hulk.
Mark Ruffalo.
Yes.
How about you, Molly?
Yeah, I agree with that assessment. I put it around a 7.5, just because I think of others that are like top tier in my head, and they're like not close. But I still enjoyed it. It's just not one that I would watch like every year, I don't think.
Yeah, I'd give it like a 5.5, maybe a 6. I know, I'm dead inside. I just don't, I wouldn't probably ever.
We made Katrina do this podcast with us.
I just, Jennifer Garner, who's adorable, is just not my cup of tea. Am I allowed to say that? We'll probably remove that. But I don't know. It's just not my style of film. And I don't think I saw it at the right age to have like that reminiscence of like some of the other ones that we've done, like What a Girl Wants, which I like can quote. So I think to me it's like a 5.5.
That's fair.
Oh, yeah. It's like 13 going on 30 had more of a profound effect on me than The Godfather. I said it here. I mean, back to jail.
Straight to jail.
Back to jail.
Believe it or not, jail.
And this is the last time I'll be doing this pod. Rachel, they cannot wait to have you back.
Oh, we're going to clip that so hard.
That'll be the clip in the beginning.
Rachel, I love you.
Ladies and gentlemen, get down. Say it.
I'll go first because it actually sparked something that we were just talking about, is something I want to talk about. So we were just talking about the Barbie dream house and how he built this for her, and we got on the Barbie track. And my confession is that when I was younger, if my brother was in trouble his punishment was to play Barbies with me. So I was a punishment to play with. Thanks, Mom and Dad. I love you.
Have fun unpacking that one with your therapist.
And every time we would play Barbies together, I'd be like, oh, John's playing with me, yay. And so we would play, like, and I had this cruise ship Barbie thing, and he would turn it into, okay, we're playing, they're on this cruise ship, hurricane. And, like, all my Barbies would die, and, like, we'd get into this natural disaster, and I'm just like, no, not that Barbie, I love that Barbie. And then they had to separate us, and I was like, cry or something, I don't know. And so... never love anything. No, I'm kidding.
And that's where her soul died. The day the music died for Katrina.
But that's my confession. When my brother was bad, he had to play Barbies with me.
Oh my God.
I love how that spending time with you was a punishment.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So he would get in trouble and they'd be like, now you have to play with your sister.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Well, my confession this week is a twofer. It's also an obsession. I'm not proud to admit this. And it's unrelated to anything that we've talked about. But this week, and probably the week before, I have been physically unable to stop listening to Memory from Cats. And look.
Yeah, Mom, I'll be right there.
I get it.
I'll be right there, Mom.
I get it.
Oh, I gotta go? Yeah, I'll be right there, Mom.
Dan, sit down. I'll be the first to say I never liked it before, and then I heard a particular version by, I believe her...
Taylor Swift?
No. She doesn't sing that song.
No, but she was in the Cats movie.
Was in the Cats movie, which we are not going to talk about. Yeah, we're not going to talk about. By Carrie Renee Fuller. And I just got to say that changed everything for me. It's just the most magnificent performance of a song I may have ever seen. It's hard to believe that Cats and Phantom came from the same mind.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Phantom is like one of my favorite things in the world. Phantom of the Opera, for you civilians. And anyway, so I've been like singing it all week. Like I just can't get out of my head. I'm like 2 a.m. trying to sleep, and I'm like, Mom. Anyway, I was on my way to pick you up today to get you for this, and I didn't realize that my window was fully rolled down. I coasted right up to the gate attendant, and I was like, I was just out of it, I was rushing to get the coffee. I was like, Mom, yeah, just picking up. Oh my God, I was like, oh my God, I forgot to like transition. She's like, okay,
inside voice, outside world.
Turn your face. Oh yeah, why? Like, never mind.
Molly's just living life as a musical.
Oh my God. So that was amazing, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. Dan?
All right. A lot of problems as a kid. So I'm just going to say this straight up. I used to just pee my pants all the time as a child. Like I was a bedwetter. And they say a lot of bedwetters are serial killers, which is not true.
Are you trying to tell us you just peed your pants just now?
Yeah.
He did.
But I would do it, like, I wasn't just, like, a bedwetter. Like, I can remember, like, as, like, a 12-year-old, like, between 10 and 12, I would go to wrestling tournaments, and, like, I would get nervous before a match, and I would tinkle. And I would...
Like a little chihuahua.
And I would pee just a little bit, and then, like, my dad would, like, take the paper towel, go, and, like, and wash. Because, like, and then he's like, you gotta shake after you go. Like, you're just gonna, you know what I mean? Or you're gonna get in the singlet. And so, like... On top of like the bedwetting, and then I would like. I remember playing at the park with my friend, and that's how you know you got a good friend, because I literally wet myself as like an 8-year-old boy playing baseball, like a pickup baseball game, and I went to the corner and I acted like I was digging rocks, but I was really trying to dry my crotch off with like the gravel in the park because I pissed myself like a. And my buddy comes over. And he goes, hey, man, what's wrong? What's going on? And I was just like, man, I'm starting to get all flustered and nervous. And he's like, what's going on, man? And he could have taken the opportunity to be the coolest kid in school by fucking making me feel like a piece of shit. And he was like, what happened, man? And he sees my green basketball shorts that I matched with my green top. And he just sees it's lime green shorts, dark green spot. forest green spot. I was wet in my car. I was wet. And he goes, he hits him with like the Billy Madison goo. He was like, oh, what happened?
You're not cool unless you pee your pants.
Yeah, and I thought I could pull that off, but then I realized, no, these kids are monsters. They will not let me live this down. And he did the right thing, and he was just like, oh man, no worries. He's like, he looked at me dead in my face. He goes, did you just piss yourself? And I was like, yeah, I did. I did. And he just was like, oh man, it's all right. Don't worry about it. And he sent me like away, kind of like by the slide, and they were like, what's Schmitty doing? What's he doing? He's like, he's gonna work on his basketball skills. There's auditions next week, and they're all playing football, and I'm just over there like with wet pants. Like,
I'm sorry, did you just say audition for basketball?
Yeah, it's where I'm at now.
You're such an actor.
Everything's an audition. It's like fucking.
Well, I think
are we coming in for a close up? Let me just I can go off of one eye.
So shout out to your friend from middle school or whatever, because that sounds like a stand-up guy.
Dan can cry on command, and he can wet himself on command.
You know,
and the latter is way easier.
I heard this week that Liam Neeson also just pees in the open.
What?
Yeah, we'll have to fact check that before it goes out there. But I'm pretty sure that that's true, because I saw a bunch of pictures of him with like a wet crotch in public.
That really ruins the image of Aslan from Narnia for me.
Sorry. All right. Well, that was a great episode with our very special guest.
All right. And thank you for having me, ladies. I mean, you guys are great.
And thanks for being on and for your honesty with the confessions.
And can we edit the part out where I tell everyone to buy my book and then fuck themselves? Can we edit that part?
No.
That might be our highlight clip.
Where I was like, go fuck yourself.
Thanks, guys, so much for listening. Go ahead and follow us on Instagram at Millennial Drama Queen Pod. And please rate and subscribe wherever you're listening.
This podcast is brought to you by Mastermind Media.